Good morning, Blaine. It's very, very quiet here in Mahikeng, I can tell you this morning. And we're out here, we're seeing also that the streets of Mahikeng this morning are very, very quiet as compared to how Freedom Day usually looks like. Where we are right now, you can see right there behind me is the Mavato Stadium. It's one of the venues that are normally used for large events such as the celebration of events such as Freedom Day. We're also going to hear a view of a legal expert on this issue, because we have been hearing some people on the ground complaining about how their freedom has been limited now due to this, the regulations of the lockdown. We've also seen some organizations or some movements taking government to court, saying that the freedom of South Africans have been limited. So joining me now to deliberate more on this issue is the attorney here, our legal expert, Mr. Joseph Modise. So thank you very much for joining us this morning. Just tell us what you make of this issue. Some organizations taking government to court, saying people's freedom is now limited. Also some residents complaining.
We need to understand that freedom of movement, it is one of the freedoms that is protected in our constitution. However, what is also important is to understand that these freedoms are not absolute. They can be limited if it's necessary. Now, South Africa is now faced with a serious situation wherein there's a spread of coronavirus. Therefore, it becomes necessary for the government to put measures in place. And one of those measures that were put in place was to say that let us limit this freedom, let us ensure that everyone stay at home, because if there's continuous movement, then the virus is going to spread in a very high speed. So that is why now it was important that there should be a limitation to the freedom of movement, because we know that even in the constitution, all those rights and freedoms can be limited.
Okay. And then, Mr. Modise, also the other issue is that, especially with reference to last week, where we saw a lot of roadblocks being conducted here in Mahikeng in particular, a score of residents were complaining that even when they produced documents showing proof of why they have to be on the roads, the law enforcement officials on the ground are not taking their story, such as when they have to go to the doctor or hospitals. So what do you make of that kind of incident?
We need to understand that everyone has a right to access to health facilities. Now, if you are having valid documents and you have an appointment with your doctor, you have to go for checkups at hospitals and so forth, I do not think it is correct that you be denied such. And if indeed there are such incidents, I think they will be dealt with at a later stage, because you need to be allowed to go and see your doctor, because we don't know by then, by denying you that particular right to go and see the doctor, we don't know, perhaps we might worsen the situation. So you need to be allowed to go and consult, because later on, if there can be some casualties, I mean, somebody will have to take responsibility for that.
Okay, Mr. Modise, also tell us, with government saying their observation, I'm making reference to the Northwest in particular, that quite a number of residents still show little adherence or not adhering at all to the regulations of the lockdown. What has been your observation on that issue?
I want to say that my observation, whereas yes, there will always be exceptional cases, but the residents are complying with the regulations to stay at home, so that they also help the government in curbing the spread of coronavirus. But yes, exceptionally you would see some residents still walking on the streets and so forth. But I want to say generally there is compliance.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was Joseph Modise. He is a legal expert, sharing with us his insights and his views on how Freedom Day this year is being celebrated. In short, saying that South Africans need to appreciate government's effort right now, even though their freedom has been limited to somewhat extent. Studio, that's how we wrap it. It's back to you for now.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Sellwane Khakhau, there live for us.